Hey guys, Steve from Exclusive Wraps here. Welcome back to another Flow Designs install video. Today we've got the new GR Corolla in and we're going to show you how to install a full Flow Designs splitter kit. So we're going to start off with the rear flow lock diffuser. Now the tools you're going to need to install this panel are an 8mm drill bit and a drill, a clip removal tool or a flat screwdriver, a 10mm ratchet spanner or similar, and a 4mm Allen key. So firstly, we're going to start off with the left-hand side of the rear diffuser. Now you'll notice the left and right side pieces are identical, just mirrored, and you can identify them by the R1, 2, 3, and 4 lettering that's on there. This lettering corresponds to the fins, which we are going to install once the diffuser is in place. So don't go clipping them on first. It might make your life a little bit more difficult. When you take your first diffuser piece, you're going to notice these two pegs here. These line up with the two cutouts in the bottom of the bumper diffuser trim there. So what you're going to do is bring it up into place and align those pins and give it a little push, and you'll hear that click. And now it should be fairly well locked in place. When I say locked in place, I mean it won't move if you try to slide it, but if you let it go, it will fall back off. So don't let it go. Get your diffuser in place. That's locked in. Grab your 8mm drill bit, and we're going to drill out the 3 holes that you can see here. 1, 2, and 3. So now that we've drilled our holes in the correct spot, you want to take your clip removal tool or a flat screwdriver, and there's one clip that you're going to benefit from removing up behind the rear diffuser. It's going to give you a little bit more access to put your nuts and bolts in behind there. All right, so now that we've removed the clip and drilled the holes, we can refit the diffuser using those pegs to line it up. There we go. Grab your nut and bolt combination, so big washer on the outside, small washer goes on the inside. This is where having removed that clip comes in handy, giving you a little bit of extra access, and the nut on the top. Oh, I dropped it. Oh wait, there it is. So I have finger tightened the nuts and bolts in place. You can't go any further because of the locking nuts there. Grab your 10mm spanner, put it in the back, and your 4mm Allen key or Torx bit is going to help you tighten that up. Alrighty, so now that we've got the diffuser base piece installed, or the valance rather, we can go ahead and take that clip that we pulled out from behind and put it back in place. So now that we have the rear valance installed, the last thing we need to do is clip in all the fins. Now hopefully you took note when you began of the locations. If not, we'll display them for you now so you know which ones are which. But, someone's phone. That's all right, let's keep going, it's all good. The first fin you're gonna start with is L4. That is the outermost left one. You're gonna go L4, 3, 2, and 1. And then when we go over to the right side, you've got R1, R2, R3, R4. Now we're on to installing the rear spats and optional winglets. Tools that you're going to need are a drill and an 8mm bit, a clip removal tool or a flat screwdriver, 4mm Allen key or similar, and a 10mm spanner or similar. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is remove the 4 clips, 1, 2, 3, and 4, underneath the rear bumper. If you've been driving your car for a little while, these are probably going to be a little bit tricky to remove, so just keep that in mind. Oh my God, don't put that in the film. Look at this guy, just throwing tools at the car. Okay, so with the 4 clips out of the way, we can dislodge the under tray here, like so, and that's gonna give us access to the inside of the bumper to do up our nuts and bolts. Now, if you've selected the optional winglets, you're gonna need to install them at the same time as the spat because they use the same nut and bolt. As you can see, they line up with those holes. When we're installing the rear spat, there are 3 bolts that go in place. The first one already uses an existing hole, one of the clips we took out. So that's going to be our first point of alignment. So we're going to take our nut and bolt combo and the winglet and spat, line that up with this hole here, and feed it through like so. And just loosely fasten that nut and bolt in place like so. All right. Now with that held in place, you'll be able to see that the shape of the spat fits the underside of the bumper nicely along this edge here. All right, so now that we've got that sitting in the right spot, I'm going to hold this in place and drill out the 2 remaining holes. Also, at this point, make sure that you don't push the drill in too deeply, or you'll drill through the top of your rear bumper, which I'm sure nobody wants. With those holes drilled, we can now take our remaining nut and bolt combos and fasten the spat in place. All right, so with all those nuts and bolts in place loosely, this is your opportunity to adjust how far in or out you want your winglets to sit if you've chosen to include them. In this case, we're going to keep them fairly nice and tight to the spat itself. Once you've got it where you want it, take your 8mm Allen key and your 10mm ratchet spanner or similar and tighten them up. With all the bolts tightened up and in place, we can reinstall the guard liner, which takes like 20 minutes. There we go. And finally, we can reinstall the clips that we removed. Now, only 3 of the 4 are going to go back in because we've utilized one of the holes for the nut and bolt combo, so you're going to have a spare clip from each side. And that's the rear spats and winglets installed. On to the next part. Alrighty guys, so we're on to the front splitter. In this case, we're installing the front splitter, extensions and winglets. So let's take some of the tools you're going to need. You're going to need an 8mm drill bit, same as all the other parts. A 10mm socket on a drill bit is very handy here, or you can use a ratchet spanner or similar. Some clip removal tools or a flat head screwdriver. A Phillips head screwdriver may also come in handy, and a 4mm Allen key. So first thing we're going to need to do is remove the under tray. This consists of 10 bolts underneath here and a bunch along the front. So you've got 4 on the front, 6 on the back, and 1 clip right here. All right, next thing you want to do is remove 2 bolts from the guard liner section here and this clip. This is going to give you a little more access to the inside of the bumper to install the mounting brackets. Quick tip guys, take note of how the under tray or the guard liner sits in relation to the front lip, because when you put this back in, you're going to want to make sure that each of these little tabs are sitting in the appropriate location behind the guard liner. That way when you put your screws in, it's actually holding something there. So now we're going to install the reinforcement brackets. These are what's going to hold your lip in place, well, predominantly, because the bumper itself is not very strong. Now, if you take a look at them, each one is labeled appropriately, left and right, right being the driver's side of the car. You'll notice it has already some nutserts in there, so you've got the thread in the bracket already, which is very handy. You're going to take this bracket and slide it up on the inner side of this sort of reinforcement bar, if you want to call it that. And you'll notice these 2 holes, which we're going to show you here, that is where the bolt is going to go through. You'll take the 10mm bolts provided and feed them through those holes. Be aware this is a little bit fiddly due to the lack of space, but if you have nimble fingers, you'll be able to get it in there just fine. So I've got that bracket in and those 2 bolts are now finger tight. Obviously there's a fair bit of play still in the bracket. What you want to do is try to keep, I'll try and demonstrate here. You want to try to keep this bottom edge of the bracket flat on the reinforcement bar that it's sitting on in there. Do that and tighten up the bolts evenly and you should have it sitting nice and central. You'll also notice that I believe this little flap here is going to line up with that hole there. Now that we've got those 2 brackets installed, we need to attach the 3rd piece of the mounting system, which is this bracket here. To do that, we need to take the under tray and we're going to pop out these 4 clips here. They are not going to be used any further, so you can just pop them out like so. Put them aside, keep them in case you ever decide to remove the flow kit from your car. You're going to want to give this section here in front of each clip a quick clean, because we've got a little bit of tape that's going to help hold the bracket in place. which you can see here. Now, I'll leave that on for a moment, just so you can see the bracket fits very nicely to the shape of the under tray there. All of these holes should line up correctly when you press the bracket against the back sort of flap of the under tray there. So make sure that you've got that in place and you know where you're going to put it. Once you have that figured out, turn it over, remove the backing on the double-sided tape. Helps if you haven't just trimmed your fingernails. You're only going to get one shot at this, so make sure you line the holes up nicely, otherwise you're going to have to re-tape it. Alrighty, I'm pretty happy with that. Lined up with the holes, pressed against the back. Ding dong. Now press down where the tape was, and that is installed. So for the next step, we're going to want to reinstall your guard liners back into their correct positions. Cool. And it's helpful if you have a friend for the next part. So I'll go grab a friend. Last thing before you grab your friend to help is you need to take out the 10mm bolt that's on the corner of either side, and we're going to replace that with the one that Flow has supplied. That's going to go through the rear holes and give us our alignment. Can I borrow your assistance? I should mention, also leave this screw tight, slightly loose, just in case you need to adjust the position of your lip. Here I am backing it off because I didn't do what I was telling you to do. If you don't have a friend, some clamps will help and you can clamp this in place, but they will be slightly in the way. So hold the lip up, take your under tray, and this is going to slide in, so we'll slide it behind, yeah. And then we can take this clip that we removed from the center of the under tray and pop that in place so it doesn't fall. Now we can take the long bolts, so they're the longest ones in your kit, there should be 4 of them, and insert them into the center holes. Don't forget, I should mention, you need these spacers to sit on top of the lip as well. So we're going to put the spacer in place, the bolt through the hole, and that's going to hold the lip in place for us to line up the rest of the bolts. Sweet. So that's about all you're going to need your friend for. The rest you should be able to do by yourself. So we've got all the 4 front bolts in place, only loosely, so there is still plenty of play in the lip for getting the remaining holes lined up and drilled. So now we're going to take our 8mm drill bit and drill these 2 holes right here. Similarly with the rear, you don't want to drill too deeply, because if you do, you're going to come out the top of your bumper and have additional aero that you don't really need. So gently drill those 2 holes out. Once you've done that, you're going to be able to pop up the guard liner under here and get your fingers in behind it and put your nut and bolt combination in place. Again, just do this loosely to start with. Do your other side as well. And once those are all in place, you can go back and tighten up all the nuts and bolts. I'm quite happy with the position that this is sitting in, so I'm going to go and tighten up all those bolts. Then we can reinstall the remaining bolts and clips from the under tray. Rightio, so the under tray is all installed, all of the bolts have been replaced. Once all is said and done, you should be left with 6 of these bolts and 4 clips. One of these is from either side, which we've replaced with the supplied ones. 4 of them are from across the front, which have now been replaced with long Flow bolts and the 4 clips that came from in there. Okay, last thing on the front splitter kit. Now that's all installed, if you have optioned front winglets and extensions, stick around. If not, you can fast forward on to the next part. So if you have just optioned, actually no, they all come together. If you only want to install the extensions, you'll only use these small bolts that are provided. If you're going to put on the extensions and winglets, you're going to use the larger bolts for these 2 holes, because it has to go through both pieces of trim, and the smaller ones for the remaining 3 front holes there. When you look under the front splitter, you're going to notice there's a bunch of gold threaded inserts. That is where you're going to install your bolts. Please do remember, when you put the bolts in here, do not over tighten these bolts because you will pull the inserts out. I like to begin with the center one when installing these because it will free up your hands to position the rest of them. So there we go. Small bolts for the front. Again, remember not to tighten these up too much because this is also going to be your opportunity to set the position of the extensions and winglets. And with that done, we have finished the front splitter onto the side skirts. Rightio guys, we are up to the last part of the install on the GR Corolla, which is the side splitters. The tools you're going to need for this one are actually quite minimal. So you just need an 8mm drill bit, an 11mm drill bit, the 4mm Allen key or Torx bit, and your, what is this called? Your jack nut installation tool. Now Flow does provide one with the kit for you, not like this. It's a different style of tool, a little bit trickier to use. We'll put a link to one of the videos where we show you how to use it, but for the purposes of this one, we're going to use this guy here, which is going to make it a little bit quicker. So before we get started, I'll point out a few things to look out for when you're installing your side splitters. Alignment is really simple with the underside of the side skirt. This back edge here is going to butt up against the plastic trim, which we'll show you. This section at the rear is going to align with a cutout at the rear of the skirt, and then this angle here at the front is going to align with a plastic trim under the front of the skirt. Alignment is very simple. You can drill your holes and then you can install them. Now we're going to put it in place and drill out all of these holes with our 8mm drill bit. Now if you're doing this by yourself, you're probably going to want to put something underneath to prop the skirt up and hold it in place at least closer than it would normally be if it was sitting on the floor. Start at one end, do one in the center, and then probably one down at the end. That way you can bolt the skirt in place and drill all the rest. In our case, we've got 2 people. We're just going to hold it there and drill all of those holes, all 11 I believe, put it down, drill it out with the larger 11mm drill bit and put in the jack nuts. All right, so we've drilled out all the holes with the 8 and 11mm drill bits. Now we're going to insert the jack nuts. So the jack nuts are in. Last thing we need to do to get the splitters on is install the bolts. All right, and that is the side splitters installed. So if you didn't select optional winglets, you can switch off now, go enjoy your car, you're finished. If you did, the last thing you need to do is take the 3 small bolts that come with the kit and install them into the gold inserts, similar to what you would have done on the front splitter. And here it is, guys. This is the complete product, a full Flow Design splitter kit installed on the new GR Corolla.